On May 24, 2015, at 9:27 a.m., an airplane contacted the control center in Marseille. The aircraft was an Airbus A320 belonging to Germanwings, flying from Barcelona, Spain, to Dusseldorf, Germany. Everything was normal until 9:30 a.m., 3 minutes after takeoff, when the captain communicated with the control center and provided them with all information related to altitude and speed. The control center verified the flight path, and everything was fine. However, a few minutes later, something strange happened. The control center noticed that the airplane's altitude had dropped to 30,000 feet, which was 2,000 feet lower than the required altitude. The issue was that the descent continued for the next 6 minutes. They attempted to communicate with the aircraft multiple times using new frequencies, and even tried to contact it through the French air defense system. They even attempted to reach the plane from another nearby aircraft, but there was no response. At 9:40 a.m., they completely lost contact with the airplane, and it disappeared from the radar. French air traffic controllers issued an immediate distress call, considering all passengers and crew members to be in great danger and in need of urgent assistance. At 9:41 a.m., the German aircraft crashed into a mountain in the Alps and was completely destroyed. So, what exactly happened? And why did this flight change aviation regulations worldwide? For those watching this channel for the first time, here you will find everything mysterious and strange. Today, I will tell you the story of the hijacking of Flight 9525 of Germanwings. The plane crashed in a remote area, making it extremely difficult to reach the crash site, forcing emergency teams to use helicopters. The aircraft was entirely destroyed and turned into small scattered pieces over a wide area. In the cockpit of the plane, there is a special data recorder for the captain and another recorder that records the entire flight. These two recorders were found during the first week of the search, and although they were damaged, investigators managed to extract the recorded data. Through this data, a clearer picture began to emerge of what happened, allowing them to understand exactly what transpired. What happened was not just an accident, it was a crime. The plane was hijacked, but not by criminals or terrorists as one might think. Let's see what happened. After the plane stabilized at the appropriate altitude following takeoff, the captain left the cockpit to go to the restroom at 9:39 a.m. While the captain was in the restroom, the aircraft's altitude was altered directly. When the captain returned at 9:41 a.m. and requested to enter the cockpit, his co-pilot did not open the door. At that moment, the captain began to realize that something was wrong. The first officer had hijacked the plane. The issue was that the captain had no way to enter the cockpit. You might wonder, isn't there a way to break the door or open it? The answer is no, and I will explain why. After the events of September 11, 2001, cockpit designs in airplanes were changed to provide greater protection against potential threats. To enter the cockpit, a crew member must communicate with the captain through the intercom system and press a specific button on the keypad next to the door, which sends a signal to the captain inside the room to unlock the door. The second way is for crew members to use their emergency code in case of a threat or emergency inside the cockpit. In this case, a timer operates for 30 seconds, and after that, the door unlocks for only 5 seconds. Now, you might ask, what if a crew member is forced to give the emergency code to the hijackers? In this case, the pilots have the ability to disable the feature that allows the door to be opened from the inside, and that's exactly what the first officer did. He locked the door and disabled all means to open it, then altered the aircraft's altitude to begin a gradual descent. The captain stood outside the cockpit, trying with all his might to get in. At 9:39 a.m., the sound of heavy, forceful knocks on the cockpit door was recorded as the captain attempted to break in, but the door was designed to be nearly unbreakable to prevent any hijacker or criminal from entering. After the accident, new procedures were implemented requiring pilots to undergo annual health and psychological checks, but there were not enough audits of their mental health. The bigger problem was that psychiatrists, if they knew that a pilot had mental disorders, were not obligated to report that to airlines because the laws protect the confidentiality of medical information. However, in cases like this, they should report the condition due to the great responsibility involved regarding people's lives. The first officer's doctors said they left room for him to express his condition, even though they knew he was unfit for a flying position. They noted that having a mental disorder does not necessarily mean that a person is a killer, as they cannot determine that someone poses a risk just because they have some disorders. How can a problem of this magnitude be solved? It has been suggested to amend the laws to require all doctors to report cases of pilots suffering from psychological issues. However, this solution is difficult to implement. But, as has been found, there were practical suggestions from aviation safety agencies, such as requiring 2 people to be in the cockpit at all times, so that if the captain leaves, another assistant remains inside. This reduces the chances of having 2 individuals with psychological disorders at the same time. Interestingly, Lufthansa, the academy from which the first officer graduated, decided to gradually eliminate this procedure, allowing the situation to return to what it was before, where 2 people could be in the cockpit alone. After the incident, Germanwings changed its name to Eurowings, so as not to forget the history of the tragedy. Families of the victims were compensated with financial amounts. But was that enough? Certainly, the families face losses that cannot be compensated with money. That was our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like strange topics, I recommend watching the video Abduction by Aliens on my channel. It's a very touching subject, and you will enjoy it. See you in the next video. In the final moments, all passengers and crew members, including the captain, realized that their end was near. Unfortunately, no one survived this incident. 144 passengers, along with 4 crew members, including the captain and first officer, all lost their lives. Among the passengers was a whole row of students. Captain Patrick Sondhelm, 34 years old, was a father of 2 and was trying in his last moments to save the plane and the passengers. The question here is, why did the first officer do that? The first officer, 27 years old, had been passionate about aviation since childhood. He joined the Lufthansa Flight Academy after graduating from high school. However, after a few months of study, he stopped training as he was suffering from depression. He began treatment with antidepressants and psychiatric medications, continuing therapy for several months under the supervision of a psychiatrist. After a while, he managed to obtain a report confirming his recovery. Months later, he was reinstated with his student pilot license and received a medical certificate confirming that he was in good health and capable of flying. He resumed his training until he faced a major problem when the academy was preparing for his practical training. In the application he had to submit to the Federal Aviation Administration, he lied and claimed that he had never been diagnosed with any mental disorders. This lie could have ended his aviation career, as the penalty for lying in such cases is imprisonment and immediate termination of his professional life. However, the Aviation Authority gave him a second chance after he confessed to his previous struggles with depression and allowed him to complete his practical training. In 2013, he joined Germanwings. But at that time, his depression returned. He often complained about a feeling that he was going to lose his eyesight. After the first officer visited several doctors, including ophthalmologists and neurologists, due to the strange symptoms he was experiencing, such as seeing halos, stars, bright lights, and flying insects around him. Despite the many tests he underwent, doctors could not identify any physical problem and told him that his condition was psychological, diagnosing him with obsessive psychosis. Instead of visiting a psychiatrist, he returned to the doctor who had helped him previously and resumed taking antidepressants, continuing his normal work and life. 4 days before the incident, he researched on the computer how to lock the cockpit of an Airbus A320. During a flight from Düsseldorf to Barcelona, he experimented with the descent settings when the captain was out of the cockpit and used those settings on their return to Düsseldorf, leading to the disaster.